Welcome back to the Movement Professional Podcast. I'm here with Dr. Joe Lacava. We're going to have a little discussion today about some things within the business of being a movement professional, especially a movement professional outside of network with insurance, and how that works, and how we look at collaborating with people, how we look at marketing, but like trying to market in a manner that still keeps what we do and what we want to do for others at the forefront. So. You got a couple questions that you were thinking about, Joe. So why don't you, the first one we were just talking when we were off camera, I think was really important. So go ahead, fire away.
Yeah. So the question is, in that scenario where you ask a client, hey, who can I help? These results that you and I have gotten together, who else do you
Hmm.
know that needs that? They give you a name. So then the obvious follow-up is, great. Are they comfortable with me calling them? Because I will control this
Hmm.
conversation if I may. And they go, let me check in with them. And then for one reason or another, it is a series of, hey, did you talk to the guy? Oh, I forgot to. Oh, I was going to
Hmm.
see him, but then this came up.
Right.
I'm going to, next week, I'm going to, and it's that over and over again. It's how is that? I mean, in your opinion, what's the best way to take control of that situation?
Yeah, I think, what I've learned, like I've certainly seen some very direct marketing work that says like make that a system, like make that as a systematic approach as you can, that you just get in the habit of every time somebody mentions someone that might be a client for you, that you ask them directly, can I reach out? And then you make it a point to reach out. I can't say that that's how it's worked for my business, because I always feel like I'd like to tread lightly with an individual client. Like I sort of want to get a sense of reading the client and getting, like, if they're sort of really into trying to help my business and they bring it up often, I will then be a little bit more direct with, like, all right, can I follow up and contact that friend that you're bringing up? If it kind of comes up in a way that they were just mentioning it off the top of their head, and I feel like if I push a little bit too much of the discussion about marketing and take away from what they're here to see me from in that moment, I will err on the side of caution a little bit there. So that's the way that I tend to handle it, is I let the my comfort level with the client dictate how direct I want to be with any type of marketing discussion. Okay.
Mhm.
Now I do a lot of stuff where I will put signage up to try to like systematize, like around the clinic, like try to systematize like a process of sending like doing a review, right?
Right.
Trying to add some things. So I don't have to be like directly having that conversation with someone, but just showing, my clients that it's important to me. I can't say that it always works, but that's a way that I like to sort of like take myself out of the direct discussion of, please help my business type of thing, versus putting it around the clinic so that that people know that it's important to the process. And I will then have the conversation. If somebody, starts to bring some of those things up to me, I'm like, yeah, absolutely, that would be really helpful. If I feel like I have a really good relationship with the clients, which I've developed over the years, then I will tend to push that a little bit more and be a little bit more direct with asking, yeah, can I reach out to that client?
Mhm. That makes sense. And it's funny, something you just said, the idea of like, the please help my business kind of like desperation breath.
Right.
I should add some context in that, yeah, for you, I mean, you've been at your location
Mm.
building up your reputation there for
Hmm.
years.
Yeah.
Um, that makes sense. And I can
Yeah.
wrap my head around that. I should add the context, right? I'm in this specific scenario where I've been at Lifetime for years,
Yeah.
which was a closed universe.
Hmm.
Lifetime sent me people, and my clients knew that one had to be a Lifetime member to be my
Hmm.
client.
Yeah.
Now it's funny because now I'm in this spot where people who have done really good work with me has followed me to this new spot, and it's this
Hmm.
expectation of like, here we are in my new space. You're gonna have to help me build this thing if you
Right.
want me to,
Yeah.
it's like more licensed. They were like, send them in here because for
Yeah.
the first time they don't need to be Lifetime members anymore.
Yeah.
Um, but I get that. I mean, I get that idea of throwing up some signs.
Hmm.
It's built into the pie.
Yeah.
And there is an expectation that if you know somebody who needs help, you're going to guide them
Right.
to help for sure.
Yeah,
I
and I
think
think it's absolutely like earlier in in my process, I had a decently smooth transition coming from like clinical work to being on my own in that I was still able to have a foot in each place. So like I didn't feel a ton of need to really kind of like push for clients,
mhm.
and I think but there was definitely a point in time like early on, like every new session I had, I did a lot of free sessions early on that I would try different things to see what worked from a client retention standpoint. And I think a bit of it did feel like a little bit of desperation on my end, like early on, just because like it's everything is new and you're building, right? So when you're in that building mode, I think it can be helpful to have systems that are a little bit more, direct, right? Like because you haven't really built the relationship with your client yet. So just like trying to take your own thought process out of it by making it systematic, I think could be really useful because you could start to talk yourself out of your own value. I know from like a cost perspective, I would constantly be like bringing my costs down just because like one person would say it was too expensive, right? And and early on, like I didn't have enough confidence in myself to say like, no, this is what I'm worth, because it was all new, right? And it was also like each person mattered to fill the book a lot more at that point.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So I think when you have something where it becomes like a little bit more systematic, where it's like, okay, this is how I'm going to do things, regardless of what somebody tells me. It's just so you don't get rattled from a confidence standpoint, and being able to like plan that out ahead of time, because again, in the moment where you have some client interactions, it starts to make you think and second guess yourself a little bit more. So I think like it becomes more important to probably have that a system that you're not, reading the client as much early on, but down the line when you feel like your schedule is a little bit more comfortable and you're more, you can have a little bit more leeway of saying like, okay, how much do I want to push the marketing side of this, or how much does this particular client really matter that I keep them as like a lifer, right? And I don't want to mess with that relationship at all by like trying to make it feel like a business, because that there will be some people that like get really turned off by that, and then there'll be others that like totally are like, what can I do to help?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, man, I'm really reacting to your word choice of desperation because it is a careful balance. Like
Yeah.
if you've been in the game for years, who knows, man, maybe you have two associates, maybe you have a second location, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? It looks pretty, there's paint on the walls, like it's established, and you're still running around, with a to the T tight process of
You're
like,
right.
who do you know? Send them in, come
Right.
on in,
Right.
make it happen. Yeah, man, that does come off as desperate. Like
Hmm.
one should have a system in place, but yeah, there's very much a point where it turns
Yeah.
into desperation. Now, the
Yeah.
flip side of that is funny. Like I am very I'm very fortunate that I found my way to Lifetime and then spent the years I did at Lifetime. Because if I was coming in from, so my background, I was technically, I'm still a chiropractor, but really, I was a chiropractor and I'm a
Hmm.
strength coach. And if I was coming in from chiropractic yesterday
Hmm.
and opening health culture, there would be zero confidence and it'd be
Right.
horrific, right?
Yeah.
But I'm fortunate that my path had me spend 4 years at Lifetime. Like I know I'm good. And
Yeah.
and 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 I mean like there's things I don't do well, and a lot of it is entrepreneurial, but one
Right.
thing I do well is people follow me
Right.
because they know I took them to a place and they continually want that. But it allows me to come in with that mindset of like, look, like I left Lifetime, man. I had a good secure thing. I came here to this tiny little spot. Like it allows me to kind of operate like you guys have the responsibility to help me build this.
Right.
Not to go
Right.
out and work for it. It's not an MLM. Like it's
Yeah.
not I don't expect charity, but you know I can help you, and you know I
Yeah.
can help other people.
Yeah.
You have a sort of responsibility to help me build this thing.
Well, and I think like that speaks to the relationship you have with the people that have followed you. And I think like early on there's always those early adopters
Mhm.
that, can really, really be a big part of helping you. And it's just I think it's reading those people though that really matters, right? Because I think a lot of like I have clients that I've been seeing now for 20 years almost. Like it is from when I was an early physical therapist, like I met them my first or second year as a therapist, and I'm still training them now. And there's been like ups and downs and changes in that relationship, but they were certainly like early adopters. And but all of those people that, and there's several of them now, they have very different personalities. So to me, it's a matter of like, letting their personality guide what I ask from them. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? And I think for the most part, like you get that comfort level, and that's it's a relationship game, right? Like this whole business is about making relationships with other people, right? And the closer the relationship, the more those people will want to help you out, and it'll be very obvious that they want to help you out, right? So it's just that it is that balance of like having a system, but also like the relationships that you gain, doing what you can to build the closeness there, because the closer the relationship gets, it gets much easier to get what you want out of people. You know what I mean? And I don't mean that in a way that it's like you're trying to manipulate people. It's just that if you're trying to get some help, which is useful, and you're explaining the process there where there's sort of a reciprocity. You're helping somebody else, you need to be able to stay in business and thrive as in a business so you can help more people, right?
Yeah.
And to have your client be able to see that relationship, oftentimes they will just by knowing you, but sometimes you need to have reminders, and systematic reminders to so that they understand how important it is that you get continue to thrive going forward.